my parents and all the brothers and sisters don't really know about the principle. But in heaven, thank you so much, especially Father, um, loving two parents that we are here to really offer our time and our particular parents so that we could be able to fulfill, especially our professional responsibility. That in your influence, thank you so much for everything. As for this, we have support elders, leaders, brothers and sisters, which parents name, June.
Jew. All right. So, ano ba unahin natin? First batch or second batch?
First should be the first.
First should be the first. Number one should be the first. Welcome, Ate Relina Dolando.
Christine Rose.
DJ.
Picture muna tayo, picture. Please turn on your cameras. May seniors to no? May seniors. Ba? Please power on your cameras while waiting for Ate Relina. Bea, may schedule ba tayo bukas, Bea? Tanong mo kay Celine kung may schedule tayo bukas.
May ano po, di ba may seminar bukas? May seminar po bukas po.
Bukas o Sunday?
Bukas po, Saturday. Teka lang, hindi nagtatanong.
6.
9 a.m. po. Anong special blessing seminar para sa mga couples na hindi pa nagsisimula ng family. Yun daw po.
Para sa kanila, kina Celine? Ay, hindi. Tapos yung sa 7, anong sa 7?
Training po yung sa 7, kuya. 7 yata. Matching supporters na training.
Sa second gen? Second gen.
Sa second gen. Opo. Second gen? Opo.
Second gen. Hapon yun, di ba? 3 p.m.?
What time? 3 p.m.? 3 p.m.? Sunday. Opo daw. Opo daw.
Wala pa kasi ako nare-receive na link yung sa ano. Para bukas.
Ate, gumagawa na po siya ng link. Ayan. Nagsasanta po siya.
Naku, dineclare na si Bea daw ang sekretary ko. Mapahirapan si Bea yan. Maging mahirapan
Ate Monens
yan.
po talaga yun. Sidekick po ako ni Ate Monens. Yun po yung totoo.
Okay na? Picture na? Si MJ pala to.
Let's take sure, but hindi ako makatag sure, so...
Hello, MJ. Okay ng connection mo?
Yes po, kuya. Nandito ako sa center.
Good. Great. Para ano?
Kaya ikaw nga mag-picture.
Opo, kuya. Ako ba, Kuya Herman?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sige po. Ay, hintayin lang. Attention natin. Okay. Baka pwede na tayo mag-take sa Philippines Sige, sige. Sige. Your faces are your responsibilities, brothers and sisters. So please give your best smiles. Hana, do, set, smile. Another one, 1, 2, 3.
Sa Carolina.
Heart shape. Ayaw nga, sa Tirina. At Tirina. Ay, sorry.
Ayun, nasa likod ni Kuya Ray.
Ayun pala.
Ate, picture taking po muna tayo. Heart shape. Sarangam nega.
Sarang.
Okay. Hibaragi sinang brothers and sisters. Another set. Hibaragi. Okay, last one. Vision 2027. Sumi. Amira, thank you so much for participating.
Okay, our first lecturer, Carolina. Introduction. Ate, tayo or tayo mo na? Sanay ka natin eh. Easy mo na lang yun
Part
sa'yo.
2 na introduction.
Introduction
Part
to
2 na
restoration.
introduction.
Oo, ate.
Oh,
Part
part 2.
2. Part 2. Restoration. Restoration.
Ano? Ba't ganun? Oh, okay.
Yung first hour heroin, puro mga first batch, no? Tapos yung second hour, second batch naman ng ano.
Okay. So, share ako ng screen. Meron pa daw nakashare.
Nakashare ka, Herwin.
Yung nakashare na iba.
Ayan, okay na tayo.
Nakakaya naman kay Sir Dolendo. Hindi ako naghanda. Good evening. Today we will officially start the third main part of the divine principle, which is the principle of restoration. And I will be sharing with you its introduction. Usually we call this, during the introduction of the divine principle, we call this third part the solution or the principle of restoration. So since there is the plan was destroyed because of the fall of humankind, so there must be a solution so that we can return back to its original principle or to its original form or the original plan about what was destroyed because of the fall of all of humanity. So let's now start the introduction to restoration. The providence of restoration refers to God's work to restore human beings to their original unfallen state so that they may fulfill the purpose of the creation. So, this means that uh, the providence of restoration or the work of God wherein human beings are being guided by the Creator, the Heavenly Parent, to return back to their original unfallen state. So we will now begin with the restoration and the perfection of fallen people. So how do we restore fallen people back to their unfallen state so that they can continue their growing period to perfection? Human beings fell from the top of the growth stage. As we have discussed it in chapter 2, in the part 1, chapter 2 of the divine principle. And heaven have been held under Satan's dominion. To restore human beings, God's works to cut off Satan's influence. So all throughout humanity's history, God has been guiding humanity in order to cut off Satan's influence or to be free from Satan's dominion. Yet we must have the original sin removed before we can saber Satan's bonds. So in order to remove or to be free from Satan's dominion, humanity must first remove the original sin. And this is possible only when we are reborn anew through the Messiah, the true parents. And we have learned that from Christology that we need to be reborn through the Messiah, the true parents. Hence, we fallen people first need to go through a course to separate ourselves from Satan. So there are 4 ways to separate humanity to Satan. We do this in order to restore ourselves in form to the spiritual level which Adam and Eve had reached before the fall, the top of the growth stage. So this means that we know very well that Adam and Eve, when they committed the fall, they did not die physically, but they died spiritually. So that we must be able to return back to the spiritual level wherein Adam and Eve are not fallen. On this foundation, we are to receive the Messiah, be reborn, have the original sin removed, and thereby be fully restored to the original state of human beings before the fall. So it is only the Messiah can remove the original sin. And after removing the original sin, we can be following the Messiah. We should continue our growth toward maturity where we can fulfill the purpose of creation. So after removing the original sin and reborn through the Messiah, we can now continue growing up from the top of the growth stage so that we can fulfill our purpose of creation. And the first, since the providence of the purpose, since the providence of restoration, it's God's work of recreation, which has its original, its goal, the fulfillment of the purpose of creation. It is recreation in the sense that it follows the principle of creation that has followed by God uh, during the creation. God's work, this providence in accordance with his principle. In the purpose of the providence of restoration, this principle is called the principle of restoration. So, the principle of restoration is synonymous with principle of with recreation. And we will follow it in the recreation. It follows God's principle. It also follows God's principle, just like during the uh, creation when God first created humanity and the natural created world or the universe. The principle of restoration through indemnity. So what is the meaning of restoration through indemnity? Restoration through indemnity, position of fallen people. So we must know the position. First, we must know the position of fallen people. Before discussing the principle of restoration through indemnity, we must first understand in what position, due to the fall, human beings came to stand in relation to both God and Satan. So what is the position of human beings to both God and Satan after the fall? If the first human ancestors had reached perfection, they would have lived relating only with God. What does this mean? They only have one master. They only follow God and nothing, no one else. So if they only follow God, it means they will follow goodness it and naturally, if they follow goodness, they become happy and there are no there is no suffering in the ideal uh, world of creation as created or as willed by God from the beginning. However, due to their fall, they joined in a kinship of blood with Satan. Hence, immediately after the fall, they found themselves in midway position, a position between God and Satan where they were relating with both. So they have uh, the meaning of midway position is that humanity was in the position to follow two masters, God and Satan. How does God separate Satan from fallen people? Because this has been the purpose of God's uh, dispensation for restoration since after the fall of humanity. A fallen person will go to God's side if he makes good condition, and to Satan's side if he makes evil condition. So you are on God's side if you make good condition, and Satan's side if you do or humanity do evil condition. So what does this mean? What then is the meaning of restoration through indemnity? When someone has lost his original position or state, he must make some condition to be restored to it. Hindi ka naririnig? Hindi ko niya naririnig. To make such, the making of such conditions of restitution is called indemnity or payment. We call this process of restoring the original position and state through making conditions restoration through indemnity. And we call the condition made a condition of indemnity. God's work to restore people to their true and fallen state by having them fulfill indemnity condition is called the providence of restoration through indemnity. It's just like indemnity is just like going to, it's just like humanity was it's just like humanity being like a machine machine which have which are not operating according to just like a cell phone. If it's not operating according to how it was made, and then it must go to a repair shop. So in order for the cell phone to be repaired, it must it must go through a process of uh, it must be brought to a repair shop, and then in order for that the cell phone to be repaired, it must you must pay the owner, or it must pay corresponding repair fee so that it can be it can be repaired back to its original operating stage. So let's us study what was being said about the indemnity. The Unification Church is unique because we have learned about the law of indemnity based on our portion of responsibility. So our portion of responsibility is the owner of the cell phone to willingness to pay the price in order to make that cell phone work again. So, and that is synonymous to portion of responsibility. It's the you must be willing to pay the price. The reason I have been suffering throughout my life is the way of indemnity. Why do I do this all my life? This is what the words of the Reverend San Myung Moon. Why do I have to keep going to prison? So remember, if you go to the internet and you would like to know more about Reverend San Myung Moon, you will see that information that says Reverend Moon has been imprisoned 6 times. So, why do I have to keep going to prison? It is because of the law of indemnity. Why do we need the law of indemnity? We need it to separate from Satan. If we do our responsibility and pay the corresponding price into in order to be free from Satan, and that is and that is the reason why we uh we must be willing to offer conditions of indemnity. Unless you fulfill your portion of responsibility, you cannot separate from Satan. I will say it again. Without fulfilling your responsibility, you will not be able to separate from Satan. Thus, you must go the way of indemnity. So all people, with without any exception, must go the way of indemnity so that we can separate from Satan. If I had not known about responsibility and the law of indemnity, the unification church would not exist. From the viewpoint of God's will, God would not be able to help me. It is when we willingly want to pay indemnity or want to do fulfill our portion of responsibility, that's the only time that God can will be able to help humanity in order to overcome all their difficulties and trials. The conditions of indemnity. So as you can see in the diagram, there are 3 types of conditions of indemnity. How does a condition that was lost? So conditions of indemnity is payment, or it is a replacement of what was lost so that we can go back to our original state. That is the unfallen state, where the point wherein Adam and Eve have not yet fallen. There is first the condition of equal indemnity. Second is the condition of lesser indemnity. And third, the condition of greater indemnity. Concerning the method of fulfilling, one must so what is the first condition is equal indemnity. If what it is the first condition of equal indemnity is synonymous with the saying that a tooth for a tooth or an eye on an eye. Kung parang sinasabi natin na kung ano yung inutang mo, yun yung bayad mo. So kung buhay ang inutang mo, buhay din yung kapalit. Equal. So kung 100 yung inutang mo, 100 din yung ibabalik mo. So second condition is the condition of lesser indemnity. So if lesser in the sense that it's like it's like what is it's like the exercise the who to be saved, they just need to believe in him, and believing in him is equivalent to lesser indemnity. You just need to believe in him. You don't need to die on the cross, just like Jesus Christ, so that you can um, offer condition of indemnity. The third condition is greater indemnity, which is this is the example. The classic example is this is when Abraham failed to fulfill his fulfill his failed to cut the dam, so that he needs to offer uh, greater indemnity by as an indemnity he needs to offer his only begotten son, only son as as an offering, so that he can indemnify not cutting in his failure of the three offerings. So that is the example of greater indemnity. So concerning the method of fulfilling indemnity condition, one must make an indemnity condition of reversing the course of his mistake. So when we offer indemnity condition, we must be able, if we fulfill indemnity condition, humanity must be able to reverse the course of the mistake. Who should make who should make indemnity condition? We ourselves must fulfill the necessary indemnity condition as our portion of responsibility. So all humanity must make indemnity condition. So, what is Father's? Let us read Father's word about indemnity. In my case, it was to be an 1:1 indemnity, not a conditional indemnity. If there are 1,000 things to indemnify for, I must make even greater indemnity conditions. So, kay Father, 1:1 indemnity. And even if 1,000 things to indemnify, gusto ni Father, greater indemnity conditions ang gagawin niya. That's how desperate it is, how desperate true Father is, or Reverend Samuel is. Then how do I fill the gap? What is both fearsome and mysterious is God's heart. Because there is God's heart, because I indemnify with God's heart, the altar can be small. The stepping stone can be small. If I exercise filial piety on one point, it quickly grows to the world level. So this is how great God's heart is. The indemnity conditions are established since the heart is greater in proportion. Actually, if we are to imagine it carefully, the heart is boundless. It is even limitless. You cannot measure how great the heart is. Otherwise, our efforts would not be able to change the external world. But if our standard of internal nature is firm, this external world will slowly crumble. Therefore, there must appear on earth signs of external form. Every sovereignty in the world will gradually crumble. That is why communism is coming down. Because of the indemnity paid by by the Reverend Sang Myung Moon, communism has been coming down or was put down. The foundation for the Messiah. The Messiah comes as the true parent of humanity because only He can remove the original sin by giving rebirth to humanity. Born of fallen parents. We learn this from section chapter 4 and chapter 7 of the part 1. So the Messiah comes as a true parent of humanity, wherein he will establish the family of God, the society of God, the nation of God. From this family, he will establish the society centered on God and the nation, and then finally the world to the cosmos for God. Since we know very well that it is not God's family that was established after the fall of Adam and Eve. So for fallen people to be restored to their original state, that is the unfallen and sinless state, we must receive the Messiah and have our original sin removed. Again, it is being emphasized that it is only the Messiah who can remove the original sin by the Messiah giving rebirth. Before we can receive the Messiah, however, we must first establish the foundation for the Messiah. So, before we can receive him, we must first establish the foundation for the Messiah. And what are these foundations to be laid so that we could receive the Messiah? What indemnity conditions are required for establishing the foundation for the Messiah? To answer this question, we must first understand how Adam was to have realized the purpose of creation and how he failed to do it. Because the condition of indemnity is made by reversing the course of the deviation from the original path. So how did Adam was supposed to realize the purpose of creation and how he failed to do it? Let us examine it again and let us review it again. Chapter 2. For Adam to realize the purpose of creation, he was supposed to fulfill two conditions. First, Adam should have established the foundation of faith by keeping strictly God's commandment and passing through a set of growing period. Remember that after the creation, immediately after the creation in Genesis 1:20, 1:20, 1:27, diba? That's when God have completed the creation. Uh, God have created man in his own image, male and female, he created them. Yun yung nasa that was in Genesis 1:27. And in Genesis 1:28, it said, you must be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion over the creation. That's And this is the set of growing period. And this is what means by you must be we already have learned what is the growing period, and then the growing period means they need to they need to they need to perfect themselves and then perfect family and then perfect dominion. So, and then in order before they can do that, God said to them that do not eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil while they are immature. They are not yet perfect. They are not perfect individually. So that is the foundation. They must keep the commandment of God. And that is not to eat the fruit while they are not yet perfect. And that is being fruitful. Second, Adam was supposed to establish the foundation of substance. After he established an unshakable foundation of faith, that is keeping the word, not to eat the fruit, he was to become one with God, thereby becoming a perfect incarnation of the word with perfect character. When he kept the word of God or kept the commandment, only following God, and then he will become one with God and become the incarnation of the word. But through the fall, he failed to establish the foundation of faith and failed to become the perfect incarnation of the word, thereby frustrating the purpose of creation. But then he was but then unfortunately Adam, or specifically Eve, was not uh, have not able to keep the word and was tempted by Satan and followed the word of Satan instead of God. Therefore, to restore the basis upon which they can complete the purpose of creation, fallen people must first restore through indemnity the foundation of faith, which the first human ancestor failed to establish. And that is foundation of faith is keeping the word, only believing in God's word. On this foundation, we need to establish after which humanity was able to establish the foundation of faith or keeping strictly the word, and this will be the foundation to establish the foundation of substance and thereby the foundation for the Messiah, through which we can receive the Messiah and be cleansed of the original sin. This is required in order for us to become perfect incarnations of the Word. In order to restore the foundation of faith, there must first be a central figure. So there are, second, an object of the condition must be offered, and third, a numerical period of indemnity must be completed. So there are three requirements in order to restore the foundation of faith. There must be a central figure. Some central figure is the someone who will pioneer on how to follow God's commandment. And then there must be an object of the condition. An object of the condition is a replacement of the word that was that was lost in the Garden of Eden. Since humanity cannot become an object for the condition because they have fallen, so the object of conditions must be those that are not fallen. The creation of God that is not fallen, that have not fallen. And those are the things of the creation, other or the lower forms of creation before the highest form of creation, and those are animals and the plants. The, the third is numerical period. There must be a numerical period of indemnity to be completed. So, a time period. Ibig sabihin nito, there must be a time period in order to cleanse everything that was blemished by the sin made by Adam and Eve. In order to lay the foundation of substance, a fallen person must make the indemnity condition to remove the fallen nature. We know now, we have already learned what is the fallen natures. These are characteristics that have inherited by humanity through the from Lucifer who became Satan. So we must be able to reverse those to remove it by reversing the reversing the manner in which the mistake was committed. Hence, to establish the foundation for the Messiah, fallen people must accomplish the foundation of substance on the basis of the foundation of faith. So we must first establish the foundation of faith strictly following the word, and then next is foundation of substance. We cannot establish the foundation of substance first, then foundation of faith. It must be foundation of faith first before foundation of substance. In that order strictly, and that is the principle. So what is the meaning of the foundation of faith? As through the words of the Reverend Sang Myung Moon through his speeches. In order to establish the foundation of faith, first there must be a central figure. God had Cain and Abel offer sacrifices. So we have already learned about that. Instead of Adam, it is Adam who committed the mistake. But since he is in the midway position, God divided Adam symbolically through his son Cain and Abel, and that and Cain and Abel represent evil and goodness, so that they can and offer sacrifices, so that the good and evil can separate. Likewise, God called men such as Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Moses for the purpose of raising them up as central figures. So, ang central figures are examples of central figures are Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Moses. Second, an object of the condition must be offered. When Adam lost his faith in God, he lost the word of God, which have been given him for the fulfillment of the condition to establish the foundation of faith. So so even men have not committed the fall, or humanity have not committed the fall, they still need to uh to 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 fulfill foundation of faith, but not as indemnity, but as a condition of their growth. As a result, fallen people could no longer directly receive the word of God, because Adam did not believe God but believed Satan. So Adam have uh Adam have lost the word. It then become necessary to offer objects for the conditions as substitute of the word. Hence, in the sense, ano yun anak ko? Hence, in the age prior to the giving of the Old Testament, people could establish the foundation of faith by offering a sacrifice or its equivalent. In the old, okay, as a result, fallen people could no longer directly receive God's word. It then becomes necessary to offer objects for the conditions as substitute for the word. Hence, in the age prior to giving the Old Testament, people could establish the foundation of faith by offering a sacrifice or its equivalent. And these are the things of the creation, these are unfallen things. Since God uh, could not uh, fallen ano could not relate to fallen beings. He could only relate to the fallen creation, which are the animals and the other things of creation other than human beings, which these are the things that have not fallen. In the Old Testament age, the word as revealed in the law of Moses served as objects for the condition. So it developed into the word, and this was given. Remember, if you we will be learning the we will be sharing with you the story of Moses later in the later part. You can see that it is uh the sacrifices, the offering of sacrifices has developed into the law, which was given by God to Moses after he have uh, offered 40 days fasting condition. We will learn that in detail in the next chapters to come. In the New Testament age, the Word was revealed in Gospels and Jesus were the objects of the condition. So, in the New Testament age, the law has developed into gospel as was given by Jesus Christ to Jesus Christ uh, as revealed by God to Jesus Christ. From the standpoint of human beings, this object for the conditions were offered for the purpose of establishing the foundation of faith. So, again, the foundation of faith is uh, following absolutely the word of God. From God's perspective, the offering of the objects for the condition would secure God's ownership of the dispensation. So, the purpose of offering of objects is secure God's ownership because it was not taken it was all taken by Satan. Third, the numerical period of indemnity must be completed. So the numerical period or time period, the numerical period is a time period, a given time period or a duration. In fulfilling the condition to establish the foundation of faith, Adam would have passed through a set of growing period, which was the time allotted for him to fulfill his portion of responsibility. This period represents some numbers of providential significance. We will learn that later, again in the next chapters to come, these significant numbers that represent a time period to lay the numerical period of indemnity. Hence, the growing period may be thought as a period to fulfill certain numbers. So if you remember, uh, Moises have offered, how many times did uh, Moises offered 40 days fasting, and then 400 years, uh, and Jesus Christ also have offered 40 days fasting, right? So what is we will be discussing the meaning of these providential numbers. As this growing period was lost through the fall, a numerical period of indemnity is required to restore it. So there must be a way to purify what was lost. So that is the meaning of the numerical indemnity. When the first human ancestor fell and acquired the original sin, so we are now sharing about foundation of substance. They could not realize their God-given original nature. Instead, they harbored the primary characteristic of fallen nature. The God-given original nature is to be good, di ba? And good only, and to be happy. Instead, they harbor the primary characteristic of fallen nature. And these fallen natures are the fallen natures inherited by humanity or the first human ancestors and passed on to their descendants and to us, which is the fallen nature of the archangel Lucifer. By making the indemnity condition to remove this fallen nature, a fallen person can lay the foundation of substance by which he can receive the Messiah, be cleansed of the original sin, and ultimately restore his original nature. The history of the providence of restoration and I. As an individual, each of us is product of history of the providence of restoration. Every one of us is a product of history of our lineage. And if we're going to trace it back, we will come to the original ancestor Adam and Eve. Hence, the person who is to accomplish the purpose of history is none other than I myself. So it's not only Father, but it means everybody, and we should say it to ourselves. The path which all past saints walk as they strove to fulfill God's providential will is the very path we must walk again today. So whatever the saints has walked, or the other central person has walked, and also as what Father had walked, as he pioneered, we must also walk it in the same manner. Beyond that, we must continue to the end of the path, even walking trails they left untrodden. Therefore, fallen people can never find the path that leads to life without understanding the particulars of the providence of restoration. So we must understand the particular or the details of the providence of restoration, and we must learn from it. And we must learn from their mistakes so that we will not repeat it again. and then we will be able to overcome it and be successful as we instead of repeating it, we must overcome it and become successful so that it will not repeat again. If it will repeat again, it will repeat as goodness. Herein lies the reason why we must study the principle of restoration in detail. So that ends the introduction of the restoration, of the principle of restoration, which is the third major part of the divine principle. And with that, good evening, brothers and sisters.
Thank you very much, Sister Elena. Let's give a round of applause.
Wala na yung sharing ko. Ikaw na.
Ano na tayo? Section 6. Sige, Julius, para.
Kailan yan, Herwin?
Ayun ko yan.
Ay, di ko alam.
Section 6 na tayo. So, ano mo naman press? Ruleta ko na lang. Sino ba? Sinong ano? The one? Ay, sa second batch. Kaya, Silvi. MJ. Can you present? Di ka, ano nang na-lecture mo tayo? Wala ka pa na-lecture, di ba? I think so. Wala siguro. Tawa siya. Ano na pag-aralan naman natin? Ano na pag-aralan mo na?
Ako kuya?
Oo.
Yung chapter, section 6.
Ano pag-aralan mo sa section 6? Sige daw. Ikaw na present. Okay, so let's welcome Ate MJ.
Isa. Minsan pag-screenshot.
Asa man yung ano?
Kanan.
Kani?
Hello, good evening. So, wait lang po. Malipad. Escape. Hey, good evening, elders, brothers, and sisters. So I am Merging Kagampang. So tonight I will be lecturing about section 6, the incorporeal world and the corporeal world, whose center is human beings. So universe consists of incorporeal world and corporeal world. In relation to this, So it is the spiritual world and the physical world that forms the cosmos. So in addition, human beings inherited the dual characteristics of God, which is the internal and external form. So it is the mind and body. So human beings also have this spiritual self and the physical self, which we call the little universe. So the incorporeal world is so called because we cannot perceive it through our five physical senses. So spiritual world, so we cannot see it through our five physical senses. So yet we can perceive it through our five spiritual senses. So those who have had spiritual experiences, those who have, like, we call it third eye, so they will testify that the incorporeal world appears as real as the world in which we live. So just as we cannot discern a person's character without fathoming his mind, and we cannot understand the fundamental meaning of human life without understanding God. So without understanding God as our creator, so we cannot also understand or cannot understand the spiritual world. So we can say that we can say that the physical world cannot understand without the spiritual world. So the incorporeal world or spiritual world is in the position of subject partner, and the corporeal world or physical world is in the position of object partner. So the latter is like the shadow of the former. So the position of human beings on the cosmos. So God created human beings to be first the rulers of the universe. So we are the one to dominate and lead every created beings here in the physical world, and also as the co-creator. Next, the mediator and center of harmony of the cosmos. So we are the one who will connect the physical world and the spiritual world and the physical world as the having this harmonious relationship of the cosmos. The next, an encapsulation in a substantial form of the essence of everything in the cosmos. So we are we encapsulate to that the spiritual world and the physical world. So next, the reciprocal relationship between the physical self and the spirit self. So spirit self is consists of spiritual body and spiritual mind. So while the physical self also consists of the physical mind and the physical body. So physical self cannot grow without the spiritual self. So they must have this harmonious relationship. So physical mind or and the physical body, so they needs to maintain the function, so for the survival, so they need this protection and reproduction. So in order for the physical self to grow, so they should have these vitality elements, or we call these good conditions that we will be doing. And also in order to for the physical self to grow in good health, so we must absorb air and sunlight, so which are intangible. Next, young types of nourishment. So we need to eat and drink food and water. So without eating and drinking, so we cannot grow. So which are intangible. Also, yin types of nourishment. So through the digestive system and circulatory system. So this system, so they absorb or they regulates the body. The nourishment that coming from the food and the food we eat and the water we drink. So they are the one who maintain the or regulate our body. So next, good or evil in the conduct of the physical self is the main determinant of whether the spirit self becomes good or evil. So this is because the physical self provides certain element which we call the vitality element to the spirit self. So vitality elements, so they are the good conditions that we do, like doing hondoke in the morning, attending Sunday service, tithings, and also helping our brothers and sisters in the center, and also helping our parents through household chores like cleaning, washing the dishes, and also sweeping the floor, like that. So it gives the physical self to grow and the spirit self also to grow. Next, so the reciprocal relationship between the physical self and the spiritual self. So our spirit self consists also, like I say, so they consist also spirit, mind, and spirit body. So the spirit self only perceives through the spiritual senses. So and communicate directly with God and exists as substantial incorporeal reality, able to govern the angels of the incorporeal world. So the spirit mind is the center of the spirit self, and it is where God dwells. So the spirit grows through give and take action between the two types of nourishment. So life elements from God and vitality elements from the physical self. So like the physical self, so spirit self also needs these living vitality elements and these life elements and the vitality elements from the physical self. So without the physical body or the physical self, spirit self cannot grow. So the spirit self not only receives vitality elements from the physical self, it also returns elements to the physical self, which we call the living spiritual elements. So perfection and growth of the spirit self. So spirit self can grow and reach perfection only while it abides in the flesh. So spirit self can only grow through the physical body. He cannot grow without flesh or physical body. So the relationship between the physical self and the spirit self is similar to that between a tree and its fruit. So if a tree have this have nourishment, must also have this complete energy like sunlight, water, so it can grow a beautiful fruit or like a healthy fruit. But if a tree does not have nourishment and does not have enough sunlight and water, so its fruit will not healthy. So spirit minds guides the spirit self as it grows in the soul of physical self. So the growth of the spirit self towards perfection progresses through the three orderly stages ordained by the principle of creation. So spirit, so physical self grows from physical self is from formation, growth, and completion. So if the spirit self cannot obtain this in the physical world, so if they have only reached formation, so spirit self will only go or become form spirit. But if they have they grow, they have in the level of the growth stage, they will become light spirit. But if they have reached the perfection of or reach that level of completion stage, so they will become divine spirit. So spirit self cannot grow without the physical self. So while living on earth, your every action and movement is recorded in your spirit self. So what you have done in earth, what you do, so it will be recorded in heaven. So without exception. So we, all people without exception, all things that we do here on this earth will be recorded on the spirit world. So under the public laws of heaven as the standard. So according, you will enter the spirit world in the form of your spirit self. So you yourself will be the one who will, what you say, how can you say it? You will enter the spirit world in the form of your spirit. So what you have do, or if you reach only that level, like in the growing period, in the growth stage, so you will be, as you go there, so you will become the, um, you will go there as the live spirit. So with has recorded your life on earth with 100% accuracy. So as you live here on earth, so you must really do good and also do live your life centered on God. So yourself will show plainly whether you have led a right life of goodness or a wormy, rotten life of sin. You must avoid injuring or scaring your spirit self, even at the risk of your earthly life. So, in conclusion, so physical self cannot grow. In conclusion, spirit self cannot grow without the physical self. So, what we do here on earth will be bound in heaven. So, as we have lived here on earth, so we must really live our lives centered on God, and also we must do our portions of responsibility according to God's will. And as we live here, we should really invest more and really help ourselves to um, do goodness. So I think that could be all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay. So, first lecture did a great job. Okay, so time is Last mag-lecture. Let us welcome Bea.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. Good evening po, everyone. Okay. So, good evening once again to all, to Kuya Randy, to Kuya Herman, Kuya Julius, at Relina, Mommy, at MJ, and to all those watching by YouTube. So, good evening, everyone. So, today I'll be giving a brief discussion about Section 6, which is part of Chapter 1, the principle of creation. So, from the previous sections of the chapter, when we have learned about the dual characteristics of God, we also have learned about the we have also learned about the universal prime energy, the give and take action, the four position foundation, and the three object purpose. And then we have also learned about the purpose of our creation, and then original value. And then lastly, we have also learned about the process of creation. So from on this section, we will be learning about the incorporeal world and the corporeal world whose center is human beings. So if you are not familiar with those words, brothers and sisters, the incorporeal world simply means the spiritual world, while the corporeal world means the physical world that you're living right now. So in this section, we also aim to answer some of our queries about whether the spirit world is actually true, or whether whether we're also going to try, and we're also going to prove that human beings are also spiritual beings. So we're not just beings with a physical body, but we are also beings with a spirit selves. So yeah. So let's begin. So the universe was created after the pattern of a human being who is in the image of God's dual characteristics. When we go back into the account in the Bible in Genesis, we will also learn that diba, although human beings were the last being that was created, we can actually see that when we look at the human body, it actually symbolizes a lot of elements in our surrounding, the physical world that we're living in right now. Actually, a lot of things have been incorporated in the human body. So, when we try to examine this more deeply, we will realize that it's actually the human being who is the blueprint, who serves as the blueprint of the all the created beings for the entire universe that we are currently seeing and feeling right now. So therefore, corresponding to the human mind and body, the universe consists of the incorporeal world and the corporeal world, both of which are real and substantial. So since a human being have a mind and body, so us, the universe also is composed with the incorporeal world and the corporeal world. When we go to the when we examine the human being, isn't it right that the mind is invisible while our body is it's the visible form of our mind. So that is also the same way with the universe, which consists the incorporeal and the corporeal, the spirit world and the physical world. So, and both of these worlds are real and substantial. So it's not just mere concepts that we actually uh, think. Same manner with our mind. It's not just our mind is not. Do you believe that you have a mind, brothers and sisters? But yeah, it's inevitable, and it's although we cannot see our mind directly, but we know that our mind is there because it allows us to think. It allows us to feel. Yeah, it allows us to process things around us. So, the two worlds together form the cosmos, just as how the mind and body compose the body and builds up the entirety of a human being. The incorporeal world and the corporeal world are the two are the two main component of the universe. So these two comprises the cosmos. So when we shed our physical bodies, we enter the incorporeal world as spirits and live there for eternity. So in this first slide, palang brothers and sisters, we can actually answer already the question if whether the spirit world exists or not. It's because the answer is yes, brothers and sisters. It exists. The spiritual world exists, and it is real and substantial. It's not just concepts, but it is true. So, in the last bullet, we discussed that when we shed our physical bodies, we enter the incorporeal world as spirits and live there for eternity. Let's discuss this further. So, the incorporeal world is so called because we cannot perceive it through our five physical senses. So, since it's invisible, we cannot perceive it with our physical senses, which are limited only to the things that we see, we touch, and we feel through our physical body. Yet, the way for us to perceive this incorporeal world is through our five spiritual senses. So when we think about it, brothers and sisters, we don't only have five physical senses, but we also have another five spiritual senses. So this allows us to interact both spiritually and physically in these two worlds. So those who have spiritual experiences testify that the incorporeal world appears as real as the world in which we live. If we recall, brothers and sisters, and if we try to look around us, there are a lot of people who would claim that they have a third eye, and those third eye allows them to see spirits. And have you ever wondered if whether or not they are just bluffing or they are just trying to lie to your faces? So although I am not quite sure about how it was possible, but with that scenario and happening itself, brothers and sisters, it would give us an idea that spiritual senses, that we all have the spiritual senses, which allows us to feel not only the physical things around us, but as well as the spiritual things around that surrounds us. So just as we cannot discern a person's character without fathoming his mind, and we cannot understand the fundamental meaning of human life without understanding God, so we cannot completely understand the nature and structure of the corporeal world without understanding the incorporeal world. So, in order for us to completely discern the physical world that we are living in, brothers and sisters, we also have we must be able to understand completely the structure and the nature of the incorporeal world, just as how we have to understand the structure and nature of our mind to completely understand the fullness of our body. So that is how significant it is for us to understand and learn more about the our mind and how it functions, how it what is its nature. So yun. The incorporeal world or the spirit world is in the position of the subject partner, and the corporeal world or the physical world is in the position of the object partner. So the latter is like the shadow of the former. And so when we go back into the representation of a person, of a human being, our mind is in the position of a subject partner, while our body is in the position of the object partner. Just as how our mind directs our body what to do, it is the same thing with both the incorporeal world and the corporeal world. We might not be worried about it, brothers and sisters, or we might not be conscious about it, but the incorporeal world serves as the central it's like the central nervous systems that gives us instructions, like the brain giving instructing its neurons, serving a transmitting signals through its neurons throughout the body. So it's the same thing with the incorporeal world. So without understanding, without the incorporeal world, the corporeal world or our body cannot function completely. So these two must be able to unite. These two must be able to unite with one another, with the incorporeal world, or with that, with our mind as the subject. So this is very important, brothers and sisters. For if we if we try to interchange this position, this would really cost us a lot of misery in our lives again. So what is the position of human beings in the cosmos? So we all know that God created human beings to be the rulers of the universe, and then the mediator of the center of harmony of the cosmos, and an encapsulation in a substantial form of the essence of everything. Just as how God have created us when we go back um, when we go back in the account in the Bible, we see that when God created us in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, it states there that be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion. So in that verse, brothers and sisters, it gives us an idea, and it gives us the argument that when God was creating human beings, He created us within within His mind that we will become the rulers of the universe, and not only that, but we will also become the mediator who would become a bridge to these two worlds, which is the incorporeal world and the corporeal world. And that is also why human beings have both the spirit body and then the physical body, because through human beings these two worlds collides and become united as one. And then so when we look at it all in all, brothers and sisters, we are like a capsule who yeah, which brings together both incorporeal world and the corporeal world. So that is how significant and that is how precious one human being can be. So it's not only true to certain individuals, but this is also true to all the human beings. So again, we must remember that we have these three purposes why God created us. We also have these three functions, yeah, why God created human beings. So the physical self consists of the dual characteristics of the physical mind and the physical body. The physical mind directs the physical body to maintain the functions necessary for its survival, protection, and reproduction. So for the physical self to grow in good health, it must absorb air and sunlight, which are intangible yang types of nourishment, then eat and drink food and water, which are tangible yin types of nourishment, through its digestive and circulatory systems. So, good or evil in the conduct of the physical self is the main determinant of whether the spirit self becomes good or evil. This is because the physical self provides a certain element which we call the vitality element to the spirit self. So, going back, so to digest it piece by piece, brothers and sisters. So, a human body, focusing entirely on the structure of our physical body. We have a physical mind and a physical body. So these two must be nourished and developed both. And these two, the physical mind and the physical body as well, must be able to harmonize with one another. So how do we nourish and develop our physical selves? So the physical mind, which serves as the subject partner, directs our physical body what to do and what to do, and then what to basically what to do. And then so um yeah, The physical mind directs the physical body to maintain the functions necessary for its survival, protection, and reproduction. That is why it is necessary for our physical self to eat, to receive the right amount of air, sunlight, and as well as sleep. We also have to. That's why we have to take care of our physical body, and we do all these things to take care of our physical self. However, it is not only those things that allows our physical self to develop and grow, but we also have this vitality element that we call, which consists of the good things that we do, uh, and as well as the bad things. So when we do good things, good vitality elements is very nourished to us, to ourselves, and that will allow us to grow, and that will also allow us to, yeah, to become developed. Yeah. So um, these vitality elements that we do through our physical activities, like giving alms, like mopping the floor, or washing the dishes, doing the laundry, and as well as maybe attending the school, and then taking good care of our animals or our pets or even our family members. All these consist are all these comprises the vitality elements, which will then be sent to our spirit self, and and then these vitality elements then um, serves as the food to our spirit self. So our spirit self, just like our physical self, is composed or is consist yeah consists of a spirit mind and a spirit body. So the spirit self only perceives through the spiritual senses and can communicate directly with God and exist as substantial incorporeal reality, able to govern the angels and the incorporeal world. However, if you're wondering what is the food that our spiritual self need, those are the vitality elements. That's why the more that we do good things, brothers and sisters, the more that we do bad things, uh, the more it affects our spirit self. So the more that we do good things, the more our spirit self grows, and the more that we do bad things, that will haunt us, that will make us feel guilty, and yeah, the more our spirit self deteriorates. So it's like slowly killing our spirit self. That is why it is really necessary for us to um allow ourselves, both spiritually and physically, to grow together in harmony. So, hindi pwedeng yung physical self lang yung nakafocus or yung spiritual self lang. Kasi how would the physical self fully function without the spirit self? Or how would the spirit self fully function without the physical self? So, there must these two must meet in an equilibrium where both of them are in harmony and in, yeah, unity. So the spirit mind, just like as our physical mind, is the center of the spirit self, and it is where God dwells. That is why, brothers and sisters, have you ever experienced that whenever you try to do something bad, maybe you saw that you were walking, and then you saw that from the person in front of you, while he was taking out his phone from his pocket, a 500 peso bill fell off. So when you think about it, and then when you try to get the money and then just hide it for yourself, what will happen to you? You will be haunted, and then you will feel guilty, you will feel ashamed, and you will, yeah, that is why that is where our spirit mind, um that is where our spirit mind comes into picture. So the spirit mind gives us our is like our conscience that tells us not to do this, but to do these instead. So in that moment, when you saw the person walking in front of you, and then a 500 peso bill fell off from his pocket. So the moment that you get the money and return it, so that is where when our spirit mind and an original mind fully functions, and that is where that also become, and that is a manifestation that God dwells within us. So since God is absolute, and then he is the absolute manifestation of goodness, so God is the God of goodness. So, and that is why our spirit self, and there is a portion of us that really strives all the time to do good. So no matter how difficult it is, we cannot deny it that there is a part of us that strives hard to do good, because that is the point wherein God dwells within all of us. Yeah. So the spirit grows through the give and take action between the two types of nourishment: life elements from God and vitality elements from the physical self. So from going back into that context wherein we were doing something good. So the moment that we continuously nurture and nurture our who follow our spirit, our original mind or our spirit mind, and then God will sustain us with living elements, and then that will allow us to feel good about ourselves, and then that will allow us to feel liberated and then feel happy, and then not only those life elements that sustains our spirit self, but as well as those vitality elements that we have received from our physical self by doing those mopping the floor, washing the dishes, and also all the other things that our physical self have done to contribute for our spirit, the growth of our spirit self. So these two things are those are like the air and the food that the spirit and the physical self that we intake within our physical self. So without these two, our spirit self will die, just as how our physical self will die without having food and um, without the air that sustain our lungs with oxygen. So yeah. So the spirit self not only receives vitality elements from the physical self, it also returns elements to the physical self, which we can call the living spirit elements. That is why, brothers and sisters, when we ask those people who do a lot of good things. When we look at into those people who do a lot of good things, they look as if they are the most beautiful people around the people in the universe. That is because they glow. So that is how the life spirit elements um, gives us life. Again, so it makes us look a lot more brighter in the aspect of um, the people around us. So yeah, that is how amazing it is, brothers and sisters. So you might not wonder, you might not believe it, but try just continue doing something good, and then the people around you will notice how you are how you seem to be glowing when you're doing something good. So yeah. We have discussed in the previous section that in the process of creation that all creation and even human beings itself undergoes this growing period, which consists of three stages: the formation, the growth, and then the completion. So similarly, we have already discussed that human beings undergo these three stages, right? So similarly, the spirit self also undergoes these three stages of the growing period. So the spirit self can grow and reach perfection only while it abides in the flesh. This is something that we should take note, brothers and sisters. So our spirits, unlike our physical body, our spirit self is dependent to our physical body. So without the physical body, our spirit self, or without the physical self, the spirit self cannot reach perfection. That is why when we discuss this topic more deeply, we will understand and we will learn about those spirits who have um, already who have already went to the spirit world and did not attain perfection. So yeah, we will be learning about those spirits more deeply soon, soon enough. So the relationship between the physical self and the spirit self is similar to that between a tree and its fruit. So the spirit mind guides the spirit self as it grows in the soul of the physical self. And then the growth of the spirit self towards perfection progresses through the three orderly stages ordained by the principle of creation. So a spirit self undergoes these three stages, right? The formation, growth, and completion. And it also has three stages. The our spirit self, that is the form spirit, the life spirit, and the divine spirit. So upon with that, as long as we haven't reached the perfection yet, brothers and sisters, both physically and spiritually, our spirits have these levels: the form, the life, and divine. So this corresponds to what stage our spirit self are already in. So yeah. So this will be furtherly discussed as well in the next topic when we try to study more the divine principle in much more longer period of time. Ayan. But yeah, we have those three spirit self na levels. So how does the spirit self becomes good? So the spirit self can only become good through the redemption of sins during earthly life. So this was the reason Jesus had to come to the earth in the flesh to save sinful humanity. We must lead a good life while we are on earth. So in Matthew 16, chapter 7, verse 19, Jesus gave the keys to the kingdom of heaven to Peter, who remained on the earth. And in Matthew 18, verse 18, he said, "Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." So it is not God who decides whether a person's spirit enters heaven or hell upon his death. It is decided by the spirit itself. So that's why it is also very important that when we are still alive, we could already redeem all the sins that we have committed in our life here on earth, and all those sins. And then not only the sins that we have done while we are alive, but as well as the sins that we have within us because of uh, the contribution, those four types of sin. We must be able to redeem those four types of sin in order for us and in order for our spirit self to also attain perfection and become good, absolute good spirits. And that when we enter the spirit world, we will no longer have any problems. So that is a necessity to all the human beings. So and when we take note about this, brothers and sisters, also, a lot of myths and a lot of stories and fantasies that we have in mind is that when we go to when we go to heaven, there is a book of life that will show us the records of how we have lived our lives. However, we will know, brothers and sisters, that such thing does not exist because while living on earth, your every action and movement is recorded on your spirit self. Wait lang. Nawala yung ano ko. Oh my God. Teka lang po. However, sige. Teka lang. Yan. Hala. Then, see, while I'm next thing is so while living on earth, your every action and movement is recorded on your spirit self. So those concept that we have that when we go to heaven, there is a book of life that will show us how we have lived our life. It is actually ourselves that serves as the book of life. So that records everything that we have done, every single thing, every single detail from our birth to the moment that we die. So without exemption, everything. So under the public laws of heaven as the standard. So lahat-lahat, kahit yung simpleng pag kupit lang natin ng piso man yan or even 25 cents from our parents, it will be recorded. So accordingly, you will enter the spirit world in the form of your spirit self, which has recorded your life on earth with 100% accuracy. So walang kahit ni isang detail na maiiwan. Yung example, yung pag cheat natin sa school, it would not be left behind. Everything, may it be good or bad, it will be recorded with our spirit. And that is why it is very important that we nurture and we develop our mind, our spirit self. Because when we think about it more deeply, brothers and sisters, our spirit or our mind is in the position of a subject partner. Oh, so in that case, since it is in the position of a subject partner, it allows us so it serves as the parang tawag nito. It will somehow dictate how we have lived our life. So ganun. So your spirit will show plainly whether you have led a right life of goodness or a wormy, rotten life of sin. You must avoid injuring or scaring your spirit self, even at the risk of your earthly life. And if we recall, brothers and sisters, there is these three levels of spirit, right? The form spirit, the life spirit, and the divine spirit. So that is also those levels also will show our let's just say that we can see these level by brightness of the spirit. So the brighter that we have become, the good, the better, the best, the good, the goodest, the best, the best, the best that the spirit has become. So ganun. So if if our spirit after we die, example, if it became black spirit or a dark spirit, then it will show that how we have lived our life, that our life is more composed of those bad things. So we have lived a life of sin, although we may have did some good things, but the bad things that we have committed outweighs those good things that we have done in earth. So that's why it's important that we must take this in mind, brothers and sisters. Now that we have heard this one, although there's a lot of even in the teaching of the Bible, it teaches us to be good. So we must really learn how to really live a good life. So we must always be cautious and wary about how you should do this. Yeah, let's live a good life, brothers and sisters. Sige lang, thank you so much. Aju.
Thank you very much, Bea. So, yun. Yung iba, tomorrow. Ano hindi naman. Yeah, Julius, pwede ka mag-present bukas kaya?
Anong section?
Ano siya kuya? Part 2. Introduction ng restoration. Yun lang, introduction.
Yun bang kanina? Kay ano?
Oh,
Kay...
yung present niya,
sige,
terminal.
okay na. Pwede
Tayong
nga,
dalawa.
i-try ko yung section 6.
Ngayon?
Yeah, ikaw, kung pwede pa.
You have 30 minutes kuya.
Ano bang natin, may
Pwede.
ano pa tayo?
Pwede po. 30, okay.
Kakaya naman sa'yo, kita. Hindi ko talaga alam na
Kasi sa mga kuya, sa first batch, tayo mo? Part 2 ng Divine Principle.
so bukas na lang.
Bukas tayong dalawa. Saka siya tibunin na.
So bukas na lang o...
Bukas ko yung introduction to restoration. Medyo mahaba kasi siya eh. Hindi natin yung last time.
Okay.
Okay, so do you have any additional from the any thought about the lecture? Not question, but yeah, just want to share something from, especially from yeah, it's from the both lecture. Introduction to Restoration, saka
Incorporeal and corporeal.
this
Diba? Incorporeal and corporeal.
spirit world, saka ano, corporeal world. Ano eh, lecture ko to nung isang araw. Eh, yung pumunta dito na, ayun, Hanfield. Eh, ang bibilis lang niya maintindihan. Hindi ko alam. I think he's really prepared. Active yung
Yung hindi niya maintindihan o naintindihan niya na mabilis.
mabilis niya naintindihan. Like, fast learning. Pero hindi naman agad-agad.
Unfeel?
May Hanfield din like, parang sino nag-send dun, basta pina-lecture lang sa akin. Yan ng isang blessed family, tapos pinapunta nila sa school. Catholic kasi siya, yung open siya.
Yung DP? Section ano?
Ano tayo, chapter 1 tsaka chapter 2
Wala
yung,
naman ako.
pero chapter 1 pa yung lecture. After ng chapter 2, papasok na siya sa 21 days. Maganda.
So, meron na tayong participants kaagad ng 7 batch.
May isa na.
Yung isa, meron daw ano, Muslim.
Slim? Oh?
Yung tinatanong pamangkin asawa ni Eva, nasa ano ba siya? Nasa Dubai yata siya ngayon.
Pamangkin sa asawa
Nasa Dubai
ni...
siya ngayon. Pamangkin ng asawa ni Eva. Bali, pinsan nila Nevian at Lacan.
Hanpil din,
Pero
te?
hindi siya.
Mag-hanpil?
Hindi ko alam. Hindi pa siya, ano. Parang pangarap ni Henry mamatch siya.
Hmm.
$29 years old? 29.
Hindi na yun. Bata pa. Yung nilecturean ko, 30 years old. 13.
Kasi tinatanong ni Eva kung pwede daw ipapanood yung nasa YouTube. Sabi ko gano'n, kailangan officially registered muna siya bago mo ipapanood yun.
Mas maganda yung yung naka-live talaga. Mag-attend siya mismo. Kahit yung pag-record. Interaction kasi is important.
Sana nga matuloy siya. Pag gano'n ang rate niya,
kano ba yun? Kano ngayon, sir?
nag-work siya kasi sa nasa Dubai siya ngayon. Dubai nga ba? Tama ba? Dubai siya Dad. Si Warda. Ha? Dubai yung pupuntahan nila, di ba? Pinuntahan niya.
Dubai.
Ha?
Dubai ata.
Dubai. Magkano na ba? International rate niya?
Oo, te.
Sir Ran? Magkano?
Hindi ko alam kano. Sir Randy.
Tinatanong ko nga rin si Sir Ray, meron siyang participant sa Singapore eh. Gusto daw magpamats nun eh. Case ni Ate Corazon. Ni Corazon pala, 35 years old siya, di ba? Naalala mo yung Corazon sa Ulacan na taga Isabela?
Alright, so tomorrow, continuation yung lecture sa section 6. Kanina pa lecture. Serbia, sino pa? Sila Ate Irene, Ma'am Marlene. Ko na lang, post ko na lang sa
Ilang minutes ba tayo dapat? Batch 1.
ang pinaka-max kasi niyan, 30 minutes.
Okay.
30 minutes doon sa part 2 ng bukas.
Introduction. Introduction. Hindi naman siya masyadong mahaba.
Di ba, Sir Erwin, pag bagong dating, di pa kumakanta?
Ano yung gaganta?
Di ba kumakanta pag bagong dating?
$120 eh.
$120. Okay. Baka mamaya tanungin na naman ako ni Eva. Wala akong isasagot. Tatanungin ulit. Bakit ganun exempted yung isang tao dyan? Walang...
MJ, kanta ka daw. Request ni ate. Alina. Yan na.
Dalawa
Welcome.
na sila.
Sino pa isa? Si Kuya Ray. Kanta ka daw yan.
Dalawa pala sila.
Bakit?
Exempted sila. Pwede ba yun? Payag ka nun? Payag kayo nun? Payag ka nun, Ate Sylvia?
Ano naman?
Sino mauna?
Tignan natin kasi sino volunteer. Nanghanda yata yung asawa ko.
Anong ihahanda?
Handa yata yung asawa.
Anong ihahanda? Anong ihahanda dyan?
Handa yung asawa ko.
Okay, let's welcome Kuya Ray, requested by wife.
Ano yun? Ano yun? Ha? Ano yun?
Pero Kuya,
Ha?
ito daw sabi ni
Kasi
Ate Ray.
tradition yun eh.
Ano yun? Ano yun? Malilik yun? Ha?
Tradition.
Anong tradisyon?
Tradition ng kumanta pag bagong dating.
Ganun. Ano kakantahin? Yabag naman,
Okay.
yabag. Yabag.
What's that? Ito na yeah? Yeah? What? Yabag?
Yabag.
Ha?
Ano yun?
Wala ate, wala. Dali na, hindi ko pala kumanta to eh. Hindi kita narinig.
Ha?
Kita narinig kumanta.
Sinong kumanta?
Oo.
Si Rika kanta. Bakit ako di mo na kung bagong dating?
Sinabi ko lang hindi ka marunong hindi kita narinig kumanta. O nga, no? Ako kumanta na ako.
Oh, sige. Kanta ako, kanta. Kanta.
Okay. Let's welcome Gary. After Gary, si Ate Reyna.
Parang yabag ha, parang yabag. Always will.
Uy.
This Father that you're blessed, and I feel that waiting. Sometimes we took the hard road, but we always saw it through. Had only one friend left, I wanted to be you.
Tapos sa'yo?
I said I lived again. I to give a helping hand, and I didn't care. When we were together, it made the dream come true. I had only one friend left,
I wanted to be you. Someone who understands me and knows me inside out. And
Nakita yan internationally.
and believes me up above. I could be someone to tell you.
I wanted
to be you.
Na, sa terili na natin.
Nice.
Marunong naman talaga eh. Ayos eh. Nasyal ka, terili na.
Isan ka siya.
Tapos, ranto.
And only one friend left. I wanted to be you. One who understands me and knows me inside out. And helps keep me together and believes me that I could not be someone to tell it to. I had only one friend left. I wanted to be you. Maruto, thank you very much.
Tunay na, tapos na siya.
Next naman, next.
Ayos.
Mas pala kasawa ko eh. Hindi ko alam na
Next, sino? May 10 minutes tayo. Next. Katerina. Hindi pa kita narinig eh. Kumanta.
Wala naman ako alam na kanta.
Kahit ano.
Baliling.
Putya ka baliling. Sige, let's welcome Katerina. Kailangan hindi magpapatalo yung wife. Next, si Kuya Julius.
Hindi naman ako bago
si Kuya Julius.
Practice na to para sa last week ng March saka first week ng April.
Practice.
Anong meron, kuya?
Ayan natin.
Holy Week celebration.
Ganun. Balik Infanta ba?
Yeah, actually, we're thinking na magkaroon ng monthly doon tayo.
Naku po, hindi ako yung gitira talaga. Hindi ako naiinggit. Bahala kayo sa buhay nyo.
Monthly seminar, tapos may adventure, learning God's heart in nature.
Grabe sila, oh.
Mag-fishing
Pwedeng
doon sa bangka.
Pwedeng lumipat ng tirahan. Pwedeng mamundok na lang, ganun.
Holy Week, Randy, di ba?
Okay, yeah. Yep.
April 1 to sakang Sunday. Kasi Thursday yung 1.
yun.
Kailan gagawin yun?
Ini-schedule pa ni Herwin tayo. Di ba tayo kakanta ka, di ba? Ate Relina?
Practice yan eh.
Mag-practice ka na, di ba?
Nag-antay ka din lahat.
Hindi naman ako marunong kumanta. May binibigay siya sa akin, hindi ko naman alam.
Walang hindi marunong sa anak ni God. Ano ba yan?
Dapat may response kay kuya. Para complete
Kung kumanta yung husband, pati yung wife din.
Ganon.
Kompleto eh.
Okay, let's welcome Aterlina.
Yay! Siya ulit kakanta daw. Ano ba yan? Baka magkamali ako ng lyrics.
Deduction yun. Deduction ng points.
Uulitin.
Naku, tapos na yung 10 minutes.
Yes, tama na. Wala na talaga.
Hindi, te, meron pa. Pwede pa naman mag-extend yata eh.
More.
Oo naman, tayo pa. Aabot nga tayo ng midnight eh.
Kuya Julius, dali mo ulit yung songbook mo, di ba? Nandoon yung mga fellowship song natin dati.
Oo, andun. Andun yun sa second part.
Eh, wala akong alam na fellowship song.
Kung pupunta tayo ng Holy Week, pwede natin gamitin yung ko doon, yung USB na speaker. May mic din yun eh. Pwede tayo mag doon.
Video okay doon eh.
Parang, ganun. May mic yun siya eh. Yung gamit namin sa spa.
Oo, maganda yan. Go.
Tayo mag doon,
Yes,
-1.
sige yung oras para wala na.
Kanta na, te. Kanta na.
Ganun tayo.
Battery na.
Hey, go! That's cool. Kaya. O yan. Ayoko naka-record eh.
Worldwide too. Millions of people are watching.
Oo nga.
Ayaw mo niyan, te, para marami mag-subscribe na. Marami na mag-subscribe, makuha na natin yun.
Baka ma-discover ka,
YouTube sensation na.
Sabihin nila, grabe, ano ba naman yan? Kakanta-kanta. Bakit ang tagal naman ng oras matapos?
Kasi kakanta ka pa daw, te. Kumanta ba si MJ nung first day natin, Herwin?
Hindi.
Sir.
Ma-extend pala ngayon yung oras.
Mag-extend talaga. Sige, para to sa asawa ko.
Extend na natin yan, te, kasi bukas question and answer na bukas eh. Puro question and answer na bukas.
Dapat bukas magre-lecture siya, ha? Instead dapat yan.
Herwin, noted na ba, Herwin?
Okay, kakanta na ako. I have two hands, the left and the right. Ano ba? Hindi ko alam. Nakapela, hindi ako kalat ako. Hindi ako makasunod.
Okay lang, te. Tayo lang naman eh. Tayo lang naman and the world ang nandyan eh.
Tayo na in the world. Ano yung kinakanta mo na naman dahil? Mamaya hindi.
Kuya, tayo and the universe po.
Ayaw nga pala kasi universal pala tayo. Universal principle train.
Ayos. Ayos na ayos talaga.
Yun na nga, ito na nga. Kung tayo'y matanda na, sana'y di tayo magbago. Kailanman, nasaan man ito ang pangarap ko. Makuha mo pa kayang ako'y
Ray Valera and Sharon Cuneta version.
Wow.
Hanggang sa nagtatanong lang sa'yo, ako pa kaya ibigin mo kung maputi na ang buhok ko. pagdating ng araw, ang iyong buhok ay puputi na rin. Sabay tayong mangangarap ng nakaraan sa atin. Ang nakalipas ay babalik natin. Oh. Ipapaalala ko sa'yo ang ating pangako na ang pag-ibig ko'y lagi sa'yo. Kahit maputi na ang buhok ko.
Ate
Ang
Regina.
nakalipas ay babalik natin. Ipapaalala ko sa'yo ang aking pangako na ang pag-ibig ko'y lagi sa'yo.
Kahit mabuti
Na ang buhok ko. Kahit maputi ang buhok ko.
Wow! Kuya ate, magkakapatid na si Altean yan.
Ano talaga yan? Tell death do us part.
Combination
kaya
ni
yan, kuya.
Forever.
Combination ni Sharon Cuneta at saka Ray Valera.
Ray Valera.
One friend, tsaka ano. Ang puti na ang buhok.
Yan ang
Alright,
team-
let's
team
welcome
gusto ko talaga
now MJ.
Yay! May
Yay!
Tapos the word. Sige na. Naririnig po ako, kuya. Naririnig po ba ako?
Yep.
Yabaga na ba? Sabayan mo yan. Sabay po. Sabayan? Wait lang po.
Hindi ko siya ready yet.
Ay, di uy. Ay, naiapapila na lang. Timurag mayabag.
Si Christy ba yung nandyan, MJ?
Si Jinky po.
Dapat akala ko ba mag-enroll na si Christy sa UPTA? Di ba ate inano mo dati?
Hindi ko
Ate Relina, si Christy?
Christy.
Sa Bohol, te.
Si Christine.
Oo nga.
Ang ganda ko.
Sinabi niya? Ano ba?
Uy, kakanta na si MJ.
Anong batch niya? Batch 1 siya, di ba?
Ate.
Yung magandang bata. Ano ba? Oo nga, yung Christine. Ang dami kasing Christine doon, di ba? Pero yung...
Ilan nawala si Bea. Ayaw niyang kumanta.
Hindi, si MJ yung kakanta eh.
O, kasi sunod na si Bea, te, after ni MJ.
Okay.
Go, MJ.
Tulkol pala yan.
Kanila din, sa of the world na lagi. Hindi ko ano ko. Such a feeling's coming over me. There is wonder in most everything I see. Another cloud in the sky, got the sun in my eyes, and I won't be surprised if it's a dream. Everything I want the world to be is now coming true, especially for me. And the reason is clear. It's because you are here. You're the nearest thing to heaven that I've seen. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world. Something in the wind has learned my name. And it's telling me that things are not the same. In the leaves on the trees and the touch of the breeze, there's a pleasing sense of happiness for me. There is only one wish on my mind. When this day is through, I hope that I will find that tomorrow will be just the same for you and me. And all I need will be mine if you are here. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love puts me at the top of the world. Thank you po. Yun na po.
Wow. Aju.
Okay, thank you very much, MJ. So, dapat sa adventure training natin talagang tusawa ang kantahan. Erwin, nawala si Kwan nawala si Bea. Di ba siya nasusunod?
Ano si Bea, ba't siya nawala?
Oo. So siyang una bukas?
Introduction. Bago mag-lecture.
Oh. So bukas, Erwin, may question and answer na bukas?
Pwede rin sa.
So after ng lecture ng first batch, may Q&A. Tapos after ng lecture ng second batch, may Q&A din. Para
Yes, sir.
Sige. And also, I would like to during the lecture, actually, we have to do some aside from reflection from participants, we needed to set some discussion na magkaroon ng interaction between the lecturers and coordinators, tapos yung mga participants, and lahat ng mga participants na doon. Para sa ganun, mas magiging wider yung scope ng learning ng bawat isa. Okay, so, I would suggest na lahat ng mga lecturers natin, you have to prepare a question, yung mga practical question, how they can apply the principle. Tapos yun yung doon maging sentro ng maging discussion. Kasi di ba parang kagabi, yung question kagabi, di ba? Parang that's the time na they can freely express themselves and nare-realize nila na yun pala yung principle. Yun pala yung application ng principle na ginagawa nila pero hindi nila naiintindihan kasi walang nakapag-mediate sa relationship ng principle and our lifestyle. Kaya di ba kagabi, kahit na nagising lahat kagabi yan. So, prepare a question like that para sa ganun magkaroon ng deeper discussion, and that's the time kasi na we can learn from the participants na yung may experiences nila, how they practice the principle. That would be a added value sa atin as a lecturer na because of their victory na ganun, that can be our additional example na substantial example. Okay? So, kaya importante yung mga ganun na kung sino man maging coordinator, dapat siya mag-drive nun. Tapos, supportahan ng lecturer and ng mga other lecturers. So, we have to help each other na para sa ganun, we can maximize our capacity to learn and discover yung potentiality of how we can substantialize the principle to become part of our life and to become the transformation, to give us transformation. Aju? So, anyway, for further announcement, yung 5th batch, yung 7th batch mag-start na. And pag matapos na rin ni Bea at saka ni Herwin yung letter for invitation para sa sa 3rd batch ng UPTA para maibigay na kay Yav para may disseminate na para makapag-prepare yung mga gusto mag-join. Uy, bumalik na si Bea, kakanta na yan.
Yung letter Bea gawin natin.
Sige po, kuya.
So magaling sa
Kaya na po ba?
linguistic eh.
Ang galing niyang kumanta nung yung offering kay True Mother nung
Kuya, hindi. Lip sync lang yun, kuya. Ano ba
Ha?
yan? Lip sync lang yun.
Lip sync ba yun? Narinig kaya kita nung nandun ako sa tabi mo.
Hindi mo.
Okay, welcome muna natin si Bea. Kanta lang.
Kuya, yan na po. Huwag na, kuya.
Ay, grabe ka. We sacrifice for you and you should
We have waited for you.
Okay.
Pero kuya, ano po yung letter na gagawin? Para sa memo po ba or letter talaga?
Memo?
Memo, invitation memo to enroll for the 3rd batch ng UPTA. To be signed by the president, national leader.
Baka Bea, di pa ako nakagawa ng memo. Hindi ko alam. My goodness.
Parang
hindi ako idea.
Merong template yata si Celine. Tanong mo si Celine. Merong template
siya. Meron nga po, kuya. I-ask ko na lang po. Ipo-forward ko na lang sa inyo, kuya, or i-ask ko na lang si Ate Celine, Kuya Herwin. Para po
forward mo sa amin.
Apa.
Thanks, Bea.
With Kuya Herwin, not ask Kuya Herwin to do it himself. Ano ba yan?
Kakanta na yan.
Joker ka.
Kakanta na si Bea.
Si Bea.
Ay, bukas na lang para makapag-prepare siya.
Sige.
Ma-memorize niya yung Ha? Makapag-prepare ka bukas. Pwede naman yung kahit yung
lip singing po.
Yung sikreto mo, yung tinatago mong kanta.
Ha? Meron ba?
May time ka pa mag-practice.
Hanggang
bukas, paturo ka sa atin mo. Yan.
Sige po, absent na lang po ako bukas.
Paalam pa ganun. May paalam pa ganun.
Di ka pwede ma-absent. Dalhin ko yung laptop doon, tapos
Magtatago na lang.
Ay, doon na nga rin ako bukas.
Hala ko yun.
Sa office na nga lang ako bukas magklase.
para live.
Oo.
Live sa
Kuya.
YouTube, live pa sa face to face.
Hala ka rin.
Already.
Okay. So, meron na tayo naka-prepare for 7 batch, Ate Relina? Yeah, pang 7 batch. Ilan na yung ano? Naka-mute ka, te.
Para hindi marinig yung aking kanta. Yung pamangkin yata ni yung balak ni Eva na pasalihin yung pamangkin ni Henry na nasa Dubai. 29 years old.
Try ko din.
$120, no?
Ate. Kumusta daw yung mga bata, te?
Okay naman daw sila.
Kumusta
Hindi
experience
sila
sila
sa pag-aaral.
Kumusta experience sila sa online
Hindi naman kami nakapag-usap noon. Pero yung last na meeting natin, sabi niya gano'n, ano bang gagawin sa, di ba nag-reflection si Abe? Ano daw sasabihin doon? Gaano katagal daw? Nasa iyo, sabi ko ganyan. Depende sa kanya. Yun lang naman yung yan. Tinanong after that, hindi na kami nakapag Kasi masyado yata silang busy nung pagkatapos. Busy din tayo. Kanina lang kami nakapag-chat uli . Parang matagal na yung chat niya . Tinatanong niya. Although yun kasi inassist namin nung December ni Ray. Kasi nga, papunta sila ng Dubai. May kasama siya na isang pero married yun, yung kasama niya na babae. Mga January na siya nakapunta. Nakalipad. Pinaswab muna sila . Pero yun nga, masunuri naman siya kaya pero Muslim kasi siya . Muslim kasi siya, kasing tatay niya. Nakaano nga siya . Nakabusuot pang Muslim nung nakita namin.
So, ibig sabihin,
Tagal na nag-stay yata dito. Pero
medyo bawasan natin ng
Oo.
Bible verses ang
Oo nga,
Siguro, pag ganun, kinakailangan ng makaano kayo ng yung sa world scripture para doon kayo kukuha ng idagdag na aside from biblical verses. Pero sa Muslim kasi is yung imam lang pwedeng magano ng ng Quran. Hindi pwedeng kung sino-sino lang pwedeng magano ng Quran. Sa tradition ng mga Muslim talaga hindi pwedeng yun.
Yung universal law na lang.
Okay, so sige. Anyway, pagka ready na ba yung registration link, Herwin? Para sa and then yung announcement na rin.
Kasi hindi pa ako marunong gumawa ng link, sir. I can do it. Si Celine kasi gumagawa dati. Kasi Jenny, I'll ask them. Tanongin ko sa live.
Kunin mo na lang yung old file tapos i-edit mo.
Sa Monday, nandyan kami sa HQ ni Ray. May appointment kami with NL. para sa benediction prayer for the officiator ng blessing.
Blessing officiator na sila. Magiging busy na kayo niyan.
Kuya. Bible Messiah si Penny.
Si Ate Pochin saka si Ate ang Nung una kasi dapat kasama naman kami, pero yung panahon na magbibigay kasi ng benediction prayer, pauwi na siya ng iligan noon. Kaya kami nakasama doon.
At pick upin mo na lang din yung certificate mo doon sa office sa Monday.
Yes.
Okay, so any more announcement, Erwin?
Sana magawa ko din yung sinasabi ko sa iyo.
Schedule.
Ano yun,
Hindi ko pa rin yung proposal nung yung
yung sa community,
yung substantiation substantiation nung KPF. Gusto ko siya talagang gawin. Yan. Hindi ko pa rin siya nakakalimutan. Gusto makalimutan.
Meron kami nakitang TV nung Thursday. Ano yung tatak ng Kuya Julius? Pensonic, no?
Magkano?
Pensonic yun.
21,000.
Ilang inches? Ilang inches?
Malaki
na?
Malaki yun.
50 to 54 inches na.
Mura na. Mura na sa
mura
21K.
4K na rin siya. 4K siya na 4K na TV.
Ano ibig sabihin nun? Hindi ko alam kung ano ibig sabihin nun.
4K is mas maganda yung resolution niya kaysa yung sa LCD at saka yung LED version ng TV. Kumbaga mas matingkad yung kulay niya. Okay, so
Dad, tulog ka na.
So far so good. Any for me yun lang muna ngayon. Tapos bukas mas marami naman bukas, si Berwin.
Yes.
Sige. Okay, we can now close. Kung wala na announcement.
Sister Herwin at saka si sa first batch tomorrow, diba?
Yes, te.
Mag-prepare din ako?
Di na, te. Next meeting.
Sige. Saka may prepare na kami ni Bea Kami yung next, kami hindi nung next week.
Sa Monday, te?
Di ba, Bea?
Monday kami.
Monday? Monday
sa amin yun
Monday kayo, kuya.
Kayo ni Manelis
Oo
kaya.
nga, Monday, Tuesday kayo.
Monday, Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday ba, kuya?
Monday, Wednesday kami.
Hindi.
8 and 10.
Tuesday and saka Thursday kami, ni Bea.
Pala sa
Messiah His Advent. Chapter 4. Ay, ano ba yung sa amin? Chapter 4 na.
Okay, let's close with the prayer. I would like to ask Kuya Ray, pray. Closing prayer.
Okay, let us pray. Giving to you, most beloved Heavenly Father, thank you, best, for all the showers and blessings you have invited into our hearts, you have shared upon us in the past hours of our life today. And we thank you also that we have to, again, review the divine principle and learn about your will and the certainty, Father, towards learning the divine principle. As we go along in life, Father, we have to hope that we can materialize everything in this world that could try to establish something beneficial for the humankind before we go to the spiritual. So once again, all these things are part to you. In our name, Berlina Dolindo and our daughter, Alteari Conyo Dolindo, and all this family. Adieu.
Adieu.
Aju.
Night.
Okay, good night. See
Night,
you
MJ.
tomorrow.
Good night.
Good night po.
See you tomorrow
Good night,
evening.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Hindi pala, isa lang pala. 9 lang kami. Ang kakatuwa. Ay, 15.